don't know what to tell you guys about this month. I don't even know where to start. Hello guys, it's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you've come back, thank you so much. Today, you guys, it is time to do the February reading wrap up. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't even know where to start. Truly, February is always such a strange month for me, and historically, it's the month where I get the least amount of reading done. I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's like we're kicking off January with a bang and we're reading such great books and so many books that when February hits, it's just a colossal dumpster fire. I have no idea, but from what I've heard from my other friends in this community, I feel like everybody is maybe feeling the same. Let me know if you guys are as well. Anyway, you guys, we do have a mini reading wrap up for February for you guys today, so I'm just gonna get right into the video. Grab a snack. I'm eating grapes today because I am absolutely craving them. Yeah, let's get comfy, let's get cozy, and let's get right on into the video. All right, you guys, so as I said, this is gonna be a little bit of a different reading wrap up than what you might be used to. Before I get started, I just want to let you guys know that there will not be any journal visuals today, unfortunately. If you guys have seen my wrap-ups before, you will know that I like to include a little like B-roll of my reading journal. This month, like I said, has just been so weird, you guys. I'm so behind on my journaling, but what I'm planning to do is in the March reading wrap-up, show you my February spreads, because I know you guys do enjoy seeing my journal spreads for inspiration and whatnot as well, so I promise I will show you those spreads then. But anyway, before we get into talking about each of the books, I thought we would go through some statistics because I always do, and I know you guys enjoy that part as well. So starting off with just some high-level stats, I read 5 books this month, which is better than last year. I only read 2 books in February last year, so look, I'm gonna count that as a win. I read 2,754 pages. My average star rating was 4.55, which actually is pretty good. I would say this month I read a lot of really good quality books. I think overall we were having a good month, and then I'll just tell you what happened afterwards. And then my preferred format was paperback. I actually read a lot of physical books this month. You guys know I'm like obsessed with my Kindle now and I love it. But I just like realized that a lot of the books that I was reading this month were not on Kindle Unlimited in Australia, which is so bizarre. I feel like we're just getting less and less variety on there, which is not fun. I will say though that this month I actually read quite a variety, I guess, in terms of genre, which is nice. So I read 2 young adult books. They were both young adult romances. I'm sure you know if you've been following along what those books were. I read 1 dark romance, I read 1 romantasy, and I read 1 romance. So it was nice that I finally got in a dark romance because I haven't read one in a really long time and I love them. I just haven't been feeling them lately, but the one that I read I absolutely loved, so I can't wait to tell you guys about that one. Then in terms of my ratings, I had 1 5-star, I had 1 4.75 star, I had 2 4.5 stars, and I had 1 4 stars. So as I was saying a little bit earlier there, the average rating and like the quality of the books that I was reading this month were really good, and I really enjoyed what I was reading. So I guess before we get into it, I started the month off super strong. As I was obviously just saying, I read some really great books, and I am just going to tell you guys right now that I'm in the biggest reading slump of my life. Over the past 2 weeks, I have not been able to finish, pick up, look at, start a new book, and I'm really scared because at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you guys that I am currently reading 2 books and I'm scared to finish them or try to force myself to read them because, as you guys may know, when you're in a reading slump, sometimes it can really taint the outcome of a book. You can be more tempted to DNF it, you can give it a lower rating and things like that. And because the books that I'm reading I really want to enjoy, I'm like in a catch-22. Like, I'm stressed, like I don't know what to do, so I am gonna need some help. Anyway, should we just get into talking about the first book? I think we should. Okie dokes. So the first book that I read this month I was actually sent an ARC copy of. It is now released, which is really lovely, but it was Our Infinite Fates. This is by Laura Stevens. I was very kindly sent this by Penguin. It came out on the 25th of February, so you guys can go and get this book now. It's really interesting. So this is a like romantasy in a sense, more like magical realism type of vibes. There is magic and things like that, so I'm gonna call it a romantasy, but it is young adult, which is nice. So this book follows Evelyn and Arden, and essentially they have been living for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and basically in each and every lifetime, in every life that they are like reincarnated, they are fated to fall in love and kill each other, which sounds kind of insane. Essentially there is a very ominous deal and binding between the 2 of them that sort of happens at the beginning of this book. From that binding you realize that the 2 of them are, I guess, tied to each other for eternity. And as I said, they are in every lifetime fated to find each other, fall in love, and kill each other. And they have to kill each other before they turn 18. Otherwise, I guess you have to find out what happens if they don't do that. So it's this really interesting, as I said, like decades and lifetime spanning book where you are jumping between each like different reincarnation of these two lovers, and you're sort of trying to piece together what the deal was that sort of, you know, brought them together to be reincarnated all this time. And you're trying to figure out, of course, what would potentially happen if they were to not kill each other before they turn 18. And it's super, super intriguing. I think what was really beautiful about this book is that not only is it, you know, a love story, but it is really like a love letter to life and the people who you meet and who are in your family, your friendship circle, your romantic relationships. They really shape the person that you are and the person that you become. And what is so beautiful about this is because you see each of our individual characters in different lifespans. They have different families, they have different sibling dynamics, they have all these people who leave a mark on their heart. And that is such a beautiful element to this story. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's very sad, so I would definitely say get a nice box of tissues if you're going to read this. It's a slow burn, but is so worth the payoff. I ended up giving this one a 4.5 star. It was just super strong. As I said, it was a little slow in parts, but I definitely still think that it was worth the read. I've not read anything by Laura. Hello. There you go. That's Penguin telling me about when it came out. I've not read anything by Laura Steven before, but I would definitely be tempted to. I think if you're a fan of something like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, you will really enjoy this. It sort of, again, has that like magical realism. It is sort of a fantasy. I mean, it is. There's definitely magic and some magical themes in this. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way I can describe it. It's just a beautiful story. So if you want to read something a little bit different, I would definitely suggest picking this one up. Next up, I did a little reading vlog for the month, and I decided to ask you guys over on my Instagram for your 5-star romance recommendations. I guess in honor of Valentine's Day, I wanted to read some books that are like your Roman Empire god tier romance books, and I got quite a few responses. So I read 3 books in that video, and I think I put like Onyx Storm at the end of it too, like my reaction footage of that. So that was really fun. So the first book that I ended up reading was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Now this one's been sitting on my shelf for a really long time. I have sort of said to myself that I'm not going to buy all of Emily's books at once because I will be honest, I have read, this is the 3rd book that I've read by her now. I'm reading them in like publication order. I guess I hadn't really caught the buzz yet. And I usually have a rule, like for myself at least, where I do like 3 strikes and you're out. So I feel like if I read 3 books by an author and I'm not enjoying them, I won't read anymore. Or if I'm reading like, you know, a few books by a certain author and I just think they're okay, they're not really something I would find myself reaching for, then I will also, I guess, stop reading those books. I feel that way a lot about Christina Lauren's books. I feel like their books are pretty average. They're not bad, but they're just not books that I would go out of my way now to purchase because I just feel like that writing's not for me. Anyway, that long-winded thing being said, that is sort of how I was feeling about Emily Henry a little bit, because I read People We Meet on Vacation and I read Beach Read, and both were solid books. They were both 4 stars. Nothing to write home about for me personally. I know they're a lot of people's holy grail, but yeah, like I said, nothing to like write home about. So this one was sitting around for a while because I don't know, I just wasn't really itching to pick it up, but I finally did, because obviously you guys, many of you said that this was like your 5-star Roman Empire. So this book follows Nora and Charlie. So Nora is a literary agent and Charlie is an editor. They both, I guess, have this meeting one day around a piece of work. They sort of like hit it off. They're both not having the best day and they end up sort of keeping in touch. They swap numbers and they've sort of been like cheekily flirting back and forth to each other. And then one day Nora's sister sort of comes to her and says, hey, look, she's just about to have a baby. She says, look, I really want to go and visit a small town and have a little trip, you and me, get away before the next baby comes. So they go to this very small town and Nora ends up seeing Charlie there, and they're both in very sort of close proximity. He's there staying with his family because they live there, and obviously she's there with her sister. And her sister has, I guess, devised this little like bucket list of things she wants the two of them to do over the summer. And one of those obviously items on the list is for Nora to like, you know, find a man and hook up and whatever. Charlie finds out about this little list and he decides to sort of help her out with a few things. So it's very sweet and wholesome, but this book was just, to me, so much more than a love story. I feel like I've heard a few people now mention that Emily Henry's books feel like they are like literary, like general fiction with like a romance subplot. And I can see that so much, especially in book lovers. Like I said, as much as this is a love story, I think I really loved the whole journey that our female main character goes on. She often describes herself as, you know, like the general romance trope, right? Where like this guy will go out to a small town, but he's got this evil girlfriend back in the city who's not very nice. He'll go to this small town, he'll meet a new girl who's sweet and lovely and fall in love with her, and then he'll dump the witch who's back in the city. Nora always feels like she is the witch who's back in the city who always gets dumped and is just like super ambitious and job focused, and you know, she always gets like left behind. She's not the main character in a romance. So I found that super interesting. I also really love this element of sisterhood between Nora and her sister. It is a beautiful, again, I'm using this phrase like a love letter. It really felt like a love letter to like sisterhood and like how important that can be, I guess, like as you grow up, even when you do become adults and you both have separate families and separate lives, to really keep that. And I thought that was really special. I will say that this is definitely my favorite Emily Henry book that I've read so far. I still gave it a 4-star, but it's the highest 4-star out of the 3 that I've read so far. I have now gone and bought Happy Place because I'm very intrigued to read that one. Yeah, this one touched me, got me a little teary as well. So I am very happy that I read this. This one got a 4-star, as I mentioned. There was a tiny bit of spice in here, but not much from Emily Henry. What I actually will say on that, there are some books where spice I don't feel like is needed or I'm not expecting it. And this was a book where I didn't think it was needed, but I can see why it was sort of put in. But anyway, I'm very glad that I read this. Up next, you guys recommended me a book that I only had just recently bought, but I'd heard so many good things about, and I was really excited to read it. So when I saw it pop up in this, like the suggestion box that I put up on my Instagram, I was very excited to read it. So the next book that I read was Lights Out, and this is by Nevessa Allen. This is a dark romance, and let me just tell you guys, I didn't think I had any idea of what this book was going to be, other than I thought it was going to be like a stalker situation, and it sort of is, but all I can say is nothing literally prepared me for what this book actually was. Anyways, this book follows Josh and Allie. So Allie is a trauma ward nurse, and essentially she has this hyperfixation and fascination with this masked man on like a TikTok on social media, right? So you guys might have seen, I mean, I think I've seen 1 or 2 of these videos. I'm not really on this part of the internet. Essentially, there are some people who will post these like thirst trap TikToks videos of them in like a dark room, some red lighting, they'll wear a mask, and usually the guys are like shirtless, right? So they call them like masked men thirst trappers, right? So Allie has this fascination with one account in particular, and it's like her dirty little secret, her secret little hobby. Then we have Josh, who of course is the man behind the mask. He has a roommate, and basically they're like talking one day. His roommate basically says like, oh, do you remember like that girl Allie I was seeing? Well, yeah, like I'm not really seeing her anymore. Josh is like, oh, like I always thought Allie was cute. Whatever. Let's just say circumstances bring them to this point where Josh finds out that Allie is a massive fan of his videos, and so he starts stalking her. And it sounds kind of nuts, and it is nuts, but when I tell you guys, this book is like, honestly, I have no words for it. I still think about it now. I don't know if I would push my rating up on it, but I just had the best time. The highlight of this book, the star of this book, is how well Nevessa Allen has merged a dark romance with a comedic element, because there have been so many books previously that I've read that have tried to do this that have failed, and Lights Out does it so well. I'm thinking about books like Butcher and Blackbird, where I feel like the comedy was really forced in that setting. What I love about this is you have this like masked man, this really dark broody guy who is like stalking this girl, but he is like squeamish when it comes to bodies and blood, and like he's a goof. He like befriends her cat and says like, that's my son now. Like he's not even joking. He says to her like, that's our son. And like he will like sit in the background while she's having a confrontation with someone, and he'll eat popcorn, and she's like, are you for for real right now. Like, he is the funniest character, like male main character that is a main character, not a side character in a dark romance. And it just worked so well. I don't know if you guys can see this, and I did sort of mention it in my reading vlog. I never tab comedic lines. I'll always tab like quotes, important moments, spice, and then like romance. But the majority of these tabs in here are these like light blue tabs that I literally highlighted all of the funny lines. Some of them are so funny, I was wetting myself. And that's why, as I was saying, like, it just was effortlessly funny. It was so enjoyable. This one got a 4.75 star from me and a 3 chili spice. The one thing that I will say about this is I felt like there was a, you know, confrontation and conflict that was brought up towards the end of the book, not to do with like the main couple's dynamic, but just a plot device that I felt like honestly could have been stretched into a second book. I was surprised that the second book that has been announced is not about the same couple, because I felt like that plot could have been stretched. I think that it was resolved far too quickly. Like, I feel like they got off scot-free, and I'm going, is this really resolved that easily, that quickly? I just felt like it could have been pushed, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. If you want to read something that is so funny and interesting and different, I would totally read this. It's not going to be for everyone, because still the spice is there. The spice is heavy for dark romance, you know what I mean? And I absolutely loved it. But it's not going to be for everybody. But if you like something weird, you will love this book. Okay, I can't wait to talk about these next two books. I'm so excited. So if you've missed it, if you are new here and you haven't sort of been following my page this last month, I finally did something that you guys were absolutely screaming and yelling and begging me to do for such a long time. And because obviously when I put this like thing up, you know, to say, guys, give me your Roman Empire books and ABCDEFG, I got about 35,000 of this one book title. And I said, okay, I'm gonna do it for them because it's Valentine's Day and I love them so much. I finally read Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This entire series has been on my TBR for a really long time. I only owned the first two because, you know, as the new rule that I've sort of set myself is I have to at least read the first two books in a series and like them before I buy the rest. So I had them sitting around for a really long time, but I was so scared to start this series, not only because it is incredibly popular and very, very, very widely loved. Also the size, it was ginormous. And also people were telling me that this was just a romance and that it was set in high school. I'm just not a big fan of high school romances anymore. You know, I'm 24 and I just feel like I am sort of struggling to relate to characters in high school, especially when they are, you know, age appropriately written. You know, I'm just not, I'm not there. So people were telling me it was this high school romance about rugby and it was set in Ireland. And I was like, okay, why is it this big? What do you have to say that is this big? So if you saw that reading vlog, I'll link it down below if you guys want to go check it out, because the reaction to reading this book was very, very, very funny. So for those who don't know what Binding 13 or the Boys of Tommen series is about, it follows Johnny and Shannon. So Johnny is a very famous rugby player at Tommen College. Not only is he very like famous and popular at the school, he is actually a famous player who is sort of ticketed to go and join the big leagues when he does finish up with high school. And then you have Shannon, who is a very quiet new girl to Tommen College. She transfers because she has, you know, been previously bullied at another school and quite a few schools prior to that. So her parents decide to send her to Tommen College because it is a private school, but they do say that they have a zero bully tolerance and that it's a very safe school. So her parents sort of, you know, decide to send her there and hope that it's going to be a better place for her to start. On her first day, Shannon is crossing the rugby pitch and Johnny actually hits her in the head with a rugby ball. The two of them meet and the story goes from there. I don't want to tell you anything else about this book because let me get into it. So I started reading this book and I was about 20 pages in. I got it on my Kindle and I told you guys that I can't do this. I can't do this because I sort of was feeling like these characters who are, you know, 15, 16, 17 were, you know, talking about like, you know, running through all the girls in town and drinking and carrying on and whatever. And I'm going, you guys are like children. I was like, what's going on? This is weird. But then at the same time, the girls were sort of written as they were very, very young and adolescent. And I was just like not vibing. I was not getting it. And I said to you guys, I was like, I'm gonna DNF this. So I'm gonna read for an hour and if I'm still not enjoying it, I'm gonna DNF this book. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because I ended up reading this book in a day, which, as I have said, is literally witchcraft. Because do you see this? It's massive. It's like 780 pages, okay? Once I was in, and I could not stop reading this book. And the thing that I've said time and time and time and time and time again about this, if you are looking to read this series and people are telling you that it is a high school romance about rugby players and it's set in Ireland and it's cutesy and whatsoever, that is not what this book is. People will tell you it's emotional, but that is not what this book is about. Now, I'm just going to tell you guys right now so that you're prepared, because I don't have trigger warnings, but this book is incredibly triggering, okay? Like, there is a lot of heavy content in here that is not disclosed, and I'm going to be your bookish bestie again. This is spoiler free. This book has a heavy plot surrounding family domestic violence. And I think a lot of people need to be aware of that before going in, especially because I see so many people recommending this as young adult, and these books are not young adult. I cannot stress that enough. Please be aware before going into it that obviously the content matter is very heavy, and there is some sexual explicit content that is adult in nature as we push further into the series. So for the people who are recommending it, saying you can read this in high school, the only thing that is young adult about this book is the age of our characters and the setting that it's in high school, because as I said, these poor children are dealing with very heavy and adult topics and you know, problems. So I just can't stress that enough, because if I had actually known that it was about that, I probably would have been so much more tempted low-key to read it, because like I said, I almost didn't read it because so many people were telling me it's just a high school rugby romance, and that is not what this is about. So yeah, I read this in a day and I gave it 5 stars, because how could I not? It's not funny. I gave it 5 stars. I totally get why you guys love this series so much. I totally get it. I'm in, I am here. And let's get on to the 5th and final book I read this month. So yeah, pretty much the very next day, as I said, because we did have a cliffhanger that I needed to know what was sort of going to happen next, I decided to pick up Keeping 13, which is the second book in this series. Now, the way this series is sort of like split up, I'm assuming we're going to have 3 different duets. There's 5 books currently published, but there's like Binding and Keeping 13, Saving and Redeeming 6, and Taming 7, and whatever the next 7 is going to be. My favorite man in the world, Gibbsy. Guys, Gibbsy is my new favorite character. Okay, like, he is my flavor of the month. I love that man with my entire heart and soul. Anyways, Keeping 13 was our little conclusion to Johnny and Shannon's main romance and their story, and there was so much going on in this book. Now, I obviously can't tell you what's going on in here because it will spoil what's happened in the first book, but nonetheless, I'm gonna give you some thoughts. I'm still sort of struggling to like come to terms with how I feel about this book and what I rate this book, because it really feels like in my mind like a part 1 and a part 2. Does that make sense? Like, this book feels like this is one thing and this is another, and I can't remember if it was split like that or whatever. But I will say the first half of Keeping 13 kind of felt like really repetitive for me. I really struggled to get into it as quickly as I did with Binding 13, because I feel like we were in this repetitive cycle of like, go to school, go to someone's house, have fun, go home. Go to school, go to someone's house, have fun, go home. And that's sort of where I felt I was getting a bit frustrated, because as I said, you know, I think Shannon is like 15, 16, Johnny is 17, and I feel like we rushed their relationship a tiny bit, and that's just for my own liking in the first half of the book, okay? And I was sort of, you know, really interested to sort of see where we were going. And my actual favorite thing other than Gibbsy about this story is the Lynch family. I think that that is like such a pulverizing element to this story and the characters, and I can't say too much, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in the house. I wanted to know what was going on, and I just was like itching and missing that in the first half of this book. Now, the second half of this book, I still can't put it into words, because you guys should have seen, I'll put a photo of me somewhere, of me crying reading this book. Something happened in the second half of this book, and I don't even know how to describe how much I cried, how much my heart just like threw itself into the middle of like 4-lane traffic on the highway. Like, it just like completely ruined my life. I was crying so hard. I was on the edge of my seat. I then like voice messaged 2 of my best friends to tell them what happened in this book. They've never read these books. They're not gonna read these books, but I needed to tell somebody. And then I told my mum. I told so many people. I said, you need to know how crazy this book is. I couldn't believe what happened. I thought I knew what was gonna go on, and I didn't, and I cried, and I don't don't even know how to wrap this up. I did end up giving this one 4.5 stars, as I said, because the beginning was kind of slow, but Johnny and Shannon, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life now. This is stunning, and there's a reason why people love them so much. And as I said, if you are looking for a reason and, you know, a why you should read these, I'm telling you now, they're so much more than people sell them to you as. Just as I said, be prepared. It's very heavy, have tissues, and be prepared to fall in love with every single character in these books as if they are your own siblings, family, whatever. I am so glad that you guys finally forced me to read these. Anyway, you guys, as I said, before we wrap it up, I want to talk to you guys about the 2 books that I'm currently in the middle of, and we'll see sort of where we end up. So the first one is, of course, Saving Six, which is the 3rd book in the Boys of Toman. I am currently 136 pages into this book, and because you guys, I'm in such a big reading slump, I'm really scared because this is the start of a new duet within this series, and I love Joey so much, and I've heard that I'm probably going to enjoy these books so much more than the first 2, and because I am in such a heavy slump at the moment, I'm just so terrified that if I force myself to read this. Yeah, so far I am enjoying this. I think that I was sort of not expecting the book to open where we opened, but it is kind of nice. Again, I'm not spoiling it, it's completely spoiler free, but I'm hoping that I will catch the reading bug again. I'm hoping to maybe pick up a thriller or something just to like kickstart, you know, the momentum again, because I really want to continue on and I want to read this and finish it soon. And I am currently reading a book on my Kindle that's part of my 12 months of book bestie Rex, and it is Something Beautiful. This is by Kate Weaver Smith. It was recommended by my bestie Sienna, and this is like a small town love after loss. I've probably I'm like 11% in, so I've read like 40 pages of it. Again, I really want to enjoy this because I know that it's Sienna's like one of her favorite books, and it is starting out really cute. It's just giving that wholesome single parent small town vibe, but again, I am just literally so scared to force myself into it that I might not like it. So here's my question to you guys before we go for the day, I guess, is because I am in the biggest reading slump right now, can you guys recommend me like some books that got you out of reading slumps? I would love to know, because you know, your girl needs some help, okay? I am planning to drop a little reading vlog later in the week, just sort of reading until I get out of my reading slump. So if you guys can drop some recommendations down below, please send some help, because your girl needs it. And I want to read, you know, but right now I'm like, I hate reading, and that is not good because this is my job. So help me out, please and thank you. Alrighty, you guys, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking through all the way to the end. If you did, I really, really appreciate it. How did you guys go in February? I sort of mentioned at the beginning there that I feel like amongst my other sort of friends who are in this space and like content creation as well, we've all sort of had like a similar month. So were you guys the same? Like, did you have a pretty average reading month? Did you have a great reading month? Like, let me know how you went. I always say, obviously, like, reading is not a competition. Like, if someone read 10 books a month, if someone read 2 books, 1 book, 30 books, whatever, that's amazing. But I think, like, you know in yourself like how much you usually read, I guess. So it can be a bit like disappointing when you feel like you've fallen into that slump and you're like, oh, like I want to enjoy reading again. You know, it can be really hard. So let me know how you went. As always, you guys, if you're on already, you are more than welcome to follow me on TikTok and on Instagram. I'll leave my handles on the screen and in the description box. And if you'd like to, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you are hitting the notification bell. That way you're notified each time a brand new video goes up. As I said to you guys, there's going to be a cheeky little reading vlog at the end of this week. So keep an eye out for that. I know you guys love that. There are so many exciting videos that I have planned in March. We're going to be redoing my bookshelves, which I know you guys love because, girl, I'm running out of room. I'm running out of room. You should see the amount of books all over the floor. So many exciting things. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. I really, really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are having a lovely day or a lovely night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.